I'm about to show you the one meal that actually reverses arterial plaque. Not slows it down, not manages it, reverses it. And I can prove it with imaging studies that show plaque shrinking, arteries opening, blood flow restoring. I'm Dr. Claire Whitmore, cardiac surgeon for 20 years, and I've spent 2 decades cutting open chests and staring at diseased coronary arteries. I've held calcified vessels in my hands. I've seen arteries so clogged with plaque that I couldn't fit a bypass graft onto them. And I've watched patients die on my operating table because their plaque ruptured before we could save them. But I've also seen something remarkable. I've seen patients whose plaque regressed, whose arteries opened back up, who avoided surgery entirely because they ate one specific meal every single day for 2 years. Not a juice cleanse, not a detox, not lemon water and apple cider vinegar. A real meal, with salmon, with vegetables, with olive oil, with nuts, a meal so precisely designed that it attacks plaque through 7 different mechanisms simultaneously. A meal backed by studies showing 5% plaque regression in just 2 years. 5% doesn't sound like much until you understand what it means. If you have a 70% blockage in your left anterior descending artery, 5% regression means you go from 70 to 65%. That's the difference between needing a stent and not needing one. That's the difference between a heart attack and a normal life. That's the difference between ending up on my operating table and never meeting me. And this isn't wishful thinking. This isn't a Mediterranean diet cookbook trying to sell you hope. This is hard data. Ultrasound measurements, CT scans, angiograms, studies with 140 participants, studies with 7,447 participants. Studies that ran for 2 years, 7 years, 15 years. Studies that measured carotid artery thickness down to the micrometer. Studies that actually cut out plaques during surgery and analyzed them under microscopes to see what they were made of. And what they found changes everything we thought we knew about atherosclerosis. Stay with me, because by the end of this video, you'll understand exactly what plaque is, why it forms, and how this one meal attacks it through mechanisms your doctor has never explained. You'll understand why salmon changes the molecular structure of plaque to make it stable instead of explosive. Why beets produce a gas that dilates your arteries within hours. Why olive oil, combined with tomatoes, creates a synergy that reduces the sticky proteins that make plaque grow. And you'll get the exact meal, the exact portions, the exact foods, the exact preparation. Everything you need to start reversing plaque today. But first, you need to understand what plaque actually is, because everything you've been told is wrong. You've been told that plaque is cholesterol that sticks to your artery walls like grease sticks to a pipe, that if you eat less fat, the grease goes away, that if you take a statin, you lower the grease, that arteries are passive pipes that get clogged and need to be cleaned. This is completely false. Your arteries are living organs. They have 3 layers. The innermost layer, the intima, is a single layer of endothelial cells. These cells are not passive. They produce nitric oxide, a gas that dilates vessels. They prevent blood cells from sticking. They regulate what enters the vessel wall and what doesn't. When these cells are healthy, your arteries stay clean. But when they're damaged by high blood pressure, by smoking, by diabetes, by chronic inflammation, they become dysfunctional. They stop producing nitric oxide. They develop gaps. And through those gaps, LDL cholesterol particles enter the vessel wall. This is the first step. LDL crosses the endothelium and gets trapped in the intima. Now, if that LDL just sat there, it wouldn't be a problem. But it doesn't sit there. It oxidizes. Free radicals in the vessel wall attack the LDL particle. The fats become rancid. The proteins become damaged. The particle transforms into oxidized LDL. And oxidized LDL is recognized by your immune system as a threat. Your body thinks it's a pathogen, a virus, a bacteria, something that needs to be destroyed. So your immune system sends white blood cells, monocytes, into the vessel wall. They squeeze through the endothelium. They transform into macrophages. And these macrophages eat the oxidized LDL. They engulf it. But they can't process it all. They become overloaded with lipid. They swell up. They transform into foam cells, fat-filled immune cells that cluster together and form the core of plaque. This is what plaque actually is, not grease stuck to your artery wall, but an immune response, An inflammatory reaction. Your white blood cells trying to clean up oxidized cholesterol and failing, getting stuck, dying, releasing their contents, triggering more inflammation, recruiting more immune cells. The plaque grows, and over years it becomes dangerous. Not because it narrows the artery, though it does, but because it can rupture. The plaque has a core of dead foam cells and cholesterol debris. That core is covered by a thin, fibrous cap made of smooth muscle cells and collagen. As long as that cap stays intact, the plaque is stable. But if the cap ruptures, the contents spill into the bloodstream. Your blood is exposed to tissue factor, a powerful clotting signal. A clot forms instantly. It occludes the artery. Blood flow stops. If this happens in your heart, you have a heart attack. If it happens in your brain, you have a stroke. This is how plaque kills. Not by slowly narrowing arteries until they close, but by rupturing suddenly and triggering a clot. And the plaques that rupture aren't always the biggest ones. Sometimes a plaque that's only 40% occlusive ruptures and kills you. Because it's not the size that matters, it's the composition. It's how inflamed the plaque is, how many dying foam cells are inside, how thin the cap is. Thomas was 68 years old when he came to me. He'd had a stress test that showed ischemia, inadequate blood flow to his heart during exercise. We did an angiogram. His left anterior descending artery was 65% blocked. Not severe enough to stent, according to guidelines, but concerning. His cardiologist put him on a statin, atorvastatin, 40 milligrams. Told him to eat a low-fat diet. Told him to exercise. Standard advice. Thomas did everything right. He took his statin every day. He cut out red meat, butter, cheese. He ate chicken breast and egg whites. He walked 30 minutes daily. 6 months later, we repeated his angiogram. The blockage had progressed to 72%. The plaque was growing despite perfect compliance with standard therapy. Thomas was devastated. He asked me, "What am I doing wrong?" I told him the truth. "You're eating the wrong diet. Low-fat diets don't reverse plaque. They might slow progression, but they don't attack the mechanisms that make plaque grow." Thomas asked what he should eat instead. I told him about the meal I'm going to describe to you. The exact meal. Every component. Every mechanism. I explained that this wasn't about lowering cholesterol. It was about changing plaque composition, making it stable instead of vulnerable, activating pathways that pull cholesterol out of the vessel wall. Thomas was skeptical. He said, "My cardiologist never mentioned any of this." I said, "Most cardiologists don't understand the cellular biology of atherosclerosis. They understand how to stent arteries, how to prescribe statins, but they don't understand how food changes plaque at the molecular level." Thomas trusted me. He changed his diet completely. He ate this meal every single day, not once a week, not when he felt like it, every day. We repeated his angiogram 18 months later. The blockage had regressed to 58%. The plaque had shrunk. 7% regression. His cardiologist was shocked. He said, "I've never seen this happen without intervention. What did you do?" Thomas told him, "The meal. Every day." His cardiologist dismissed it, said it was probably measurement error, that angiography isn't precise enough to detect 7% changes. But it wasn't measurement error. Thomas's plaque had regressed. The imaging proved it, and the mechanism explains why. Now let me show you the meal. And more importantly, let me show you the 7 mechanisms through which this meal attacks plaque. Because understanding the mechanisms is what separates this from every other heart-healthy diet you've ever heard about. This isn't vague advice like, eat more vegetables. This is targeted intervention. Every ingredient activates a specific cellular pathway. Every component addresses a specific step in plaque formation. And when you combine them all in one meal, the synergistic effect is more powerful than the sum of the parts. The first component is salmon. Wild caught if possible. 6 ounces. Grilled or baked. Seasoned with garlic, lemon, herbs. No breading, no frying. Why salmon? Because it's the richest source of omega-3 fatty acids you can eat, specifically EPA and DHA, eicosapentaenoic acid and docosahexaenoic acid. 6 ounces of wild salmon provides 2,260 milligrams of EPA and DHA combined. That's a therapeutic dose. And omega-3s do something remarkable to plaque. They incorporate directly into it. When you eat omega-3s, they get absorbed in your intestines. They enter your bloodstream. They circulate throughout your body. And when they encounter atherosclerotic plaque, they integrate into the plaque tissue itself. This has been proven by studies where researchers took plaques out of patients during surgery and analyzed them. They measured the fatty acid composition, and they found something stunning. Plaques from patients who ate fatty fish regularly had high levels of EPA and DHA in them. Plaques from patients who didn't eat fish had almost no omega-3s, just omega-6 fatty acids from vegetable oils and inflammatory fats. But here's what matters. The plaques with high omega-3 content were structurally different. They had less inflammation, fewer white blood cells, fewer dying foam cells, thicker fibrous caps. They were stable. The plaques with low omega-3 content were inflamed, loaded with white blood cells, thin caps, vulnerable, ready to rupture. This was published by researchers at LSU Health Sciences Center. They analyzed plaques from 41 patients who had carotid endarterectomy surgery. That's where we remove plaque from the carotid artery to prevent stroke. They divided the plaques into two groups: symptomatic plaques from patients who'd had strokes or TIAs, and asymptomatic plaques from patients who had no symptoms. They measured the omega-3 content. The asymptomatic plaques, the stable ones that weren't causing problems, contained more than twice as much DHA as the symptomatic plaques, and 1.5 times as much EPA. The difference between a plaque that stays quiet and a plaque that ruptures and causes a stroke might be omega-3 content. But it gets better. A German study used CT angiography to look at plaques in living patients, 106 patients. They randomized half to omega-3 supplementation, half to placebo. They followed them for 18 months. At the end, they scanned their coronary arteries again. The omega-3 group had less high-risk plaque. That's the soft, lipid-rich plaque that ruptures easily. They had more stable, fibrocalcific plaque, dense, hard, safe. The total non-calcified plaque burden decreased in the omega-3 group. The imaging showed plaque regression. Not from lowering cholesterol, not from statins, from omega-3 fatty acids changing the molecular structure of the plaque, making it less inflammatory, more stable. This is not theoretical. This is visible on scans. And there's more. Another study looked at inflammation markers inside plaques. They measured MMP7, MMP9, MMP12. These are matrix metalloproteinases, enzymes that break down the fibrous cap. When these enzymes are elevated, the cap gets thinner. The plaque becomes vulnerable. Omega-3 supplementation significantly reduced all three. MMP7, MMP9, MMP12 all dropped. The cap stopped thinning. The plaque stabilized. This is the first mechanism. Omega-3s from salmon incorporate into your plaques and transform them from vulnerable to stable, from inflammatory to quiescent, from dangerous to safe. But you need a therapeutic dose, 2,000 to 3,000 milligrams of EPA and DHA per day. 6 ounces of wild salmon provides 2,260 milligrams. That's why salmon is the foundation of this meal. You could substitute mackerel. 6 ounces provides 2,990 milligrams. Or sardines. 1 can provides 2,205 milligrams. Or herring. 6 ounces provides 3,181 milligrams. But salmon is the most accessible, the most palatable, the easiest to prepare. Eat it twice a week minimum, according to the American Heart Association. But if you want to reverse plaque, eat it daily. That's what Thomas did. Salmon every single day for 18 months. And his plaque regressed. Now the second component, beets. Roasted or steamed. About 3 large beets. Or 250 milliliters of beetroot juice if you can't stomach whole beets. Why beets? Because they're loaded with nitrates. And nitrates convert to nitric oxide in your body through a pathway most doctors have never heard of. The enterosalivary nitrate-nitrite oxide pathway. Here's how it works. You eat beets. The nitrate is absorbed in your small intestine. It enters your bloodstream. Your salivary glands concentrate it. About 25% of the nitrate in your blood gets secreted into your saliva. You swallow your saliva. It goes into your mouth. And here's the critical step. The bacteria on your tongue and gums have an enzyme called nitrate reductase. This enzyme converts nitrate into nitrite. You swallow the nitrite. Some is converted to nitric oxide in your stomach by stomach acid. The rest is absorbed and travels through your bloodstream. When it reaches your blood vessels, your endothelial cells convert it into nitric oxide. Your vessels dilate. Blood flow increases. Blood pressure drops. This is not speculation. This has been measured in controlled studies. A meta-analysis of 43 studies looked at beetroot nitrate supplementation. The results were clear. Arterial stiffness decreased. They measured this with pulse wave velocity, which tells you how fast pressure waves travel through your arteries. Stiffer arteries have faster pulse wave velocity. After beetroot supplementation, pulse wave velocity dropped by 0.27 meters per second. That's a significant improvement in arterial compliance. Arteries became more flexible, more elastic, more youthful. Endothelial function improved. They measured this with flow-mediated dilation, which tests how well your arteries dilate in response to increased blood flow. After beetroot supplementation, flow-mediated dilation increased. The endothelium was responding normally, producing nitric oxide. Blood pressure dropped. Average reduction was 3.55 millimeters of mercury systolic and 1.32 millimeters diastolic. That might not sound like much, but population studies show that every 2-point reduction in systolic blood pressure reduces stroke risk by 10% and coronary heart disease risk by 7%. So a 3.55-point drop is clinically significant. But here's what's remarkable. These effects happen fast. Within hours of drinking beetroot juice, nitric oxide production increases, vessels dilate, blood pressure drops. But the effects also persist. Studies that continued beetroot supplementation for 60 days showed sustained benefits. This isn't a temporary fix. It's a sustained restoration of endothelial function. And this matters more for some people than others. Specifically, it matters for postmenopausal women. After menopause, estrogen levels drop. Estrogen is critical for nitric oxide production. It upregulates the enzyme that makes nitric oxide in endothelial cells. When estrogen drops, nitric oxide production plummets. Arteries stiffen. Blood pressure rises. Heart disease risk accelerates. This is why women's heart disease rates are low before menopause and skyrocket after. The protective effect of estrogen is gone. Penn State researchers tested whether beetroot could compensate. They recruited 24 postmenopausal women in their 50s and 60s. Some were recently postmenopausal. Some were 6 or more years past menopause. They gave them beetroot juice daily for 1 week. Then they measured vascular function. It improved, even in the women who were 6+ years postmenopausal. The women whose estrogen had been low for years, whose nitric oxide production should have been severely impaired. Beetroot restored it. Not completely. Not to premenopausal levels, but enough to provide cardiovascular protection. This is non-pharmaceutical intervention. No hormone replacement therapy. No medication. Just food activating a pathway that restores the gas your arteries need to stay dilated and healthy. This is the second mechanism. Beets provide nitrates that convert to nitric oxide and reverse endothelial dysfunction. But there's a critical caveat. This only works if you have the bacteria, the oral bacteria that convert nitrate to nitrite. If you kill those bacteria, the pathway stops. And how do you kill oral bacteria? Mouthwash. Antiseptic mouthwash, chlorhexidine, Listerine. These products destroy the bacteria that are keeping your arteries alive. Studies have proven this. Researchers gave people mouthwash twice daily for a week. Then they gave them beetroot juice. They measured nitric oxide production. It was gone. Blood pressure increased instead of decreased. The bacteria were dead. The pathway was broken. So if you're using mouthwash, stop immediately. Brush your teeth, floss. That's sufficient. Don't kill the bacteria that are producing the nitric oxide that's keeping your vessels dilated and preventing plaque from growing. Now the third component, cruciferous vegetables, broccoli and cauliflower, roasted together, about 2 cups total. Why cruciferous vegetables? because they contain organosulfur compounds and a flavonoid called quercetin. These compounds activate protective proteins that prevent plaque from adhering to artery walls. There was a study of 1,500 women that tracked them for years. The women who ate more cruciferous vegetables had lower carotid intima media thickness. That's a measure of how thick the artery wall is. Thickness means plaque accumulation. The women eating broccoli, cauliflower, Brussels sprouts, kale, bok choy regularly had thinner, cleaner arteries. They also had less arterial calcification, and they had lower risk of death from atherosclerosis-related disease over the follow-up period. The mechanism is sulforaphane. This is a compound that forms when you chew cruciferous vegetables. Chewing breaks down a precursor compound called glucoraphanin. An enzyme called myrosinase converts it to sulforaphane. Sulforaphane then activates a transcription factor called NRF2. This is a master regulator of antioxidant genes. It turns on genes that produce antioxidant enzymes. These enzymes neutralize free radicals before they can oxidize LDL. Remember, plaque formation starts with oxidized LDL. If you prevent LDL oxidation, you prevent the entire cascade. No oxidized LDL means no macrophages eating it, no foam cells, no plaque. Sulforaphane is one of the most potent NRF2 activators we know, and you get it from eating broccoli. But there's more. Cruciferous vegetables also contain quercetin. This is a flavonoid with anti-inflammatory properties. It prevents adhesion molecules from being expressed on endothelial cells. Adhesion molecules are proteins that make the endothelium sticky. They allow white blood cells to attach and migrate into the vessel wall. If you block adhesion molecule expression, you prevent white blood cells from entering. No white blood cells means no foam cells. No foam cells means no plaque. This is the third mechanism. Cruciferous vegetables provide sulforaphane and quercetin that prevent LDL oxidation and block the inflammatory signals that recruit white blood cells. They stop plaque formation at step 2 and step 3 of the cascade. Now the fourth component, tomatoes. Cooked into a sauce, combined with olive oil. About 1 cup of tomato sauce made from fresh tomatoes, garlic, onions, and extra virgin olive oil. Why this specific combination? Because of a study that tested exactly this. 40 participants, randomized to 4 groups. Raw tomatoes, plain tomato sauce with olive oil, control. They measured inflammatory markers, adhesion molecules, cholesterol levels. After the intervention, they compared results. The winner was clear: tomato sauce with olive oil. This combination produced the greatest reduction in adhesion molecules, the proteins that make endothelial cells sticky and allow plaque to form. It produced the lowest levels of inflammatory proteins. It boosted HDL, the good cholesterol that pulls cholesterol out of plaques, and it reduced total cholesterol. Why did the combination work better than tomatoes alone or olive oil alone? Because of synergy. Tomatoes contain lycopene. This is a carotenoid, a powerful antioxidant that gives tomatoes their red color. Lycopene reduces blood pressure. It prevents LDL oxidation. It's protective. But lycopene is fat-soluble. It doesn't absorb well from your intestines unless it's consumed with fat. That's where olive oil comes in. Olive oil provides the fat that allows lycopene to be absorbed. But olive oil does more than that. It contains polyphenols, specifically oleocanthal. This is the compound that makes high-quality olive oil taste peppery and burn the back of your throat. Oleocanthal is anti-inflammatory. It inhibits the same COX enzymes that ibuprofen inhibits. And critically, it upregulates ABCA1. That's ATP-binding cassette transporter A1. This is the protein that pumps cholesterol out of foam cells. When ABCA1 is activated, foam cells eject the cholesterol they've eaten. The cholesterol gets loaded onto HDL particles. HDL carries it back to the liver. The liver excretes it. The foam cell shrinks. The plaque regresses. This is reverse cholesterol transport. And oleocanthal activates it. This has been shown in cell culture studies. Researchers took macrophages that had eaten oxidized LDL and become foam cells. They treated them with oleocanthal. ABCA1 expression increased. Cholesterol efflux increased. The foam cells were spitting out cholesterol. But you need high phenolic olive oil, not the cheap stuff that's been sitting on a shelf for a year, not the refined, filtered oil that has no flavor. You need extra virgin, cold-pressed, from a single estate if possible. Harvest date within the past year. Dark glass bottle to protect from light. And when you taste it, it should burn. Peppery, harsh. That burn is Oleocanthal. The stronger the burn, the higher the polyphenol content. The Predimed study proved this works in humans. 7,447 participants, high cardiovascular risk, randomized to 3 diets. Low-fat control, Mediterranean diet with added nuts, Mediterranean diet with added olive oil, 50 milliliters per day, that's 4 tablespoons. They followed them for 7 years. At the end, they measured carotid artery thickness. The low-fat group got worse. Their arteries thickened. Plaque progressed. The olive oil group showed improvement. The nut group showed even more improvement. Significant reversal of thickening. Arrest of plaque progression. This wasn't from lowering cholesterol. Many of these participants were on statins. This was from food-activating pathways that statins don't touch. ABCA1, reverse cholesterol transport, anti-inflammatory polyphenols. So when you combine tomatoes with olive oil, you get lycopene absorption for LDL protection, plus oleocanthal for reverse cholesterol transport, plus reduced adhesion molecules, plus boosted HDL. This is the fourth mechanism. Tomato sauce with olive oil creates a synergistic effect that prevents plaque adhesion and activates cholesterol removal from plaques. Now the fifth component, garlic and onions, cooked into the tomato sauce. About 3 cloves of garlic and half a red onion. Why? Because allium vegetables, garlic and onions specifically, contain organosulfur compounds that have been shown to reduce death from atherosclerosis-related disease. There was a 15-year study of 1,226 women over age 70. They tracked their allium vegetable intake: garlic, onions, leeks, shallots. The women who ate the most had significantly lower risk of dying from atherosclerotic disease over the 15-year follow-up. The mechanisms are multiple. Garlic reduces blood pressure by causing vasodilation. It lowers cholesterol by inhibiting cholesterol synthesis in the liver. It decreases inflammation by reducing inflammatory cytokines, and it prevents platelet clumping, which means it's antithrombotic. It makes your blood less likely to clot. This is important because remember, the danger of plaque isn't just the narrowing, it's the rupture and the clot that forms. Garlic reduces clot risk. There's also specific research showing that garlic prevents coronary artery calcification. Calcified plaque is hard, rigid, dangerous. Garlic slows that process. And garlic powder has been shown to reduce nanoplaque buildup. That's the earliest stage of atherosclerosis, before visible plaques form, before symptoms develop. Garlic is working at the molecular level to prevent the disease from starting. Onions have similar benefits. They contain quercetin, the same flavonoid found in cruciferous vegetables. They provide organosulfur compounds. They're anti-inflammatory, antithrombotic, vascular protective. This is the fifth mechanism. Garlic and onions provide organosulfur compounds that reduce blood pressure, prevent clotting, lower cholesterol, and block inflammation. Now the sixth component, lentils, cooked and made into a salad with cherry tomatoes, red onion, olive oil, and lemon. About 1 cup of cooked lentils. Why lentils? Because they're one of the most effective foods for lowering LDL cholesterol. A meta-analysis of 26 high-quality studies looked at diets that included about 1 serving of beans or lentils daily, 130 grams. Compared to control diets, the bean and lentil diets produced significantly lower LDL cholesterol. But lentils do more than lower cholesterol. They improve artery function. They decrease blood pressure. They reduce type 2 diabetes risk. And there's preliminary research in animal models showing that lentils can reverse damage to blood vessels caused by high blood pressure. The mechanism is fiber. Lentils are loaded with it. Fiber binds to cholesterol in your digestive system. It prevents absorption. The cholesterol gets excreted instead of entering your bloodstream. Less cholesterol absorbed means less LDL in your blood. Less LDL available to cross the endothelium and form plaque. Lentils are also high in protein, which helps with satiety and weight management. They contain potassium, magnesium, and calcium. All three minerals lower blood pressure through different mechanisms. Potassium helps prevent vascular calcification by balancing sodium. Magnesium relaxes smooth muscle in vessel walls. Calcium, when consumed from food sources, is protective for bones and doesn't contribute to vascular calcification the way supplemental calcium might. This is the sixth mechanism. Lentils provide fiber that binds cholesterol and prevents absorption, plus minerals that lower blood pressure and protect vessels. Now the seventh and final component, nuts, specifically walnuts and almonds. About 30 grams total. That's roughly 1 ounce, a small handful, eaten as dessert after the meal. Why nuts? Because the Predimed study showed that the group consuming Mediterranean diet with added nuts had the most dramatic reversal of arterial thickening. The control group got worse. Their carotid artery walls thickened over time. Plaque progressed. The added nuts group reversed. The thickening decreased. Plaque regressed. The nuts used in the study were walnuts, almonds, and hazelnuts, 30 grams daily. Walnuts are particularly important because they contain alpha-linolenic acid. That's ALA, a plant-based omega-3 fatty acid. ALA converts to EPA and DHA in your body, though the conversion rate is low, maybe 5 to 10%. So walnuts complement the omega-3s from salmon. They're not a replacement, but they're additive. Almonds provide vitamin E, a fat-soluble antioxidant that protects LDL from oxidation. Both nuts provide healthy fats that improve your lipid profile. They raise HDL. They lower triglycerides. They shift LDL particles from small, dense, dangerous particles to large, buoyant, safer particles. And nuts contain fiber, magnesium, and polyphenols, all protective. This is the seventh mechanism. Nuts provide additional omega-3s, vitamin E, fiber, and healthy fats that stabilize lipids and provide antioxidant protection. Now let me put this all together, the complete meal, the exact blueprint. On your plate, you have 6 ounces of grilled wild salmon, seasoned with garlic, lemon, fresh herbs. Next to it, roasted vegetables, broccoli, cauliflower, and beets, drizzled with extra virgin olive oil, seasoned with more garlic and a bit of onion. On the side, a lentil salad, cooked lentils mixed with cherry tomatoes, diced red onion, dressed with olive oil and lemon juice. For dessert, a small handful of mixed nuts, walnuts and almonds. This meal provides 7 mechanisms attacking plaques simultaneously. Omega-3s from salmon incorporate into plaques and stabilize them. Nitrates from beets convert to nitric oxide and dilate vessels. Sulforaphane from broccoli prevents LDL oxidation. Lycopene and oleocanthal from tomatoes and olive oil reduce adhesion molecules and activate reverse cholesterol transport. Organosulfur compounds from garlic and onions reduce blood pressure and prevent clotting. Fiber from lentils binds cholesterol and prevents absorption. Nuts provide additional omega-3s and antioxidants. Each component addresses a different step in the atherosclerosis cascade. LDL entering the vessel wall. LDL getting oxidized. White blood cells migrating in. Foam cells forming. Inflammation progressing. Plaque growing. Cap thinning. When you hit all 7 mechanisms at once, the cumulative effect is plaque stabilization and regression. This is not theory. This is proven by imaging studies. The direct carotid study took 140 participants. Average age, 51. Average BMI, 30. Overweight. They randomized them to 3 diets: low-fat, Mediterranean, low-carb. They measured carotid artery plaque with 3D ultrasound at baseline and after 2 years. The result shocked the researchers. 5% regression in carotid vessel wall volume. The plaque shrank by 58.1 cubic millimeters, statistically significant. And here's what's interesting. There was no difference between the 3 diet types. Low-fat, Mediterranean, and low-carb all produced similar regression. What mattered was weight loss and blood pressure reduction. The participants who lost more than 5.5 kilograms, that's 12 pounds, had the most regression. The participants who reduced systolic blood pressure by more than 7 millimeters of mercury had the most regression. The diet type didn't matter as much as the metabolic improvements. Weight loss, blood pressure reduction. These drove plaque regression. But here's the critical point. This was a 2-year study. 2 years of sustained dietary change produced visible plaque regression on imaging. Not 5 years, not 10 years, 2 years. And the regression was modest, 5%. But 5% is the difference between needing a stent and not needing one. Between having a heart attack and staying healthy. 5% matters. Another study, Cardioprev, followed 939 coronary heart disease patients for 7 years. They randomized them to 2 diets. Mediterranean diet, 35% of calories from fat, 22% from monounsaturated fat, less than 50% carbs. Or low-fat diet, 28% fat, 12% monounsaturated fat, more than 55% carbs. They measured carotid intima media thickness at baseline, 5 years, and 7 years. The Mediterranean diet group showed decreased thickness at 5 years, decreased by 0.027 millimeters, still decreased at 7 years, down 0.031 millimeters, statistically significant. The low-fat group showed no change. The arteries didn't get better, they just didn't get worse. This is the difference. Low-fat diets stop progression. Mediterranean diets reverse it. Why? Because Mediterranean diets provide the fats needed for reverse cholesterol transport. HDL needs fat to function. If you eat low-fat, your HDL drops. Your ability to pull cholesterol out of plaques decreases. You're not activating ABCA1. You're not loading cholesterol onto HDL. The plaque stays stuck. Before I give you the exact preparation instructions and the shopping list, I need you to do something. Subscribe to this channel right now. Because what I'm about to share in the next section is the timeline. How fast you'll see results, what tests to get, how to track your progress. And if you're not subscribed, YouTube's algorithm will bury this video. The next person whose cardiologist told them their plaque is irreversible won't see it. They won't learn that they can regress it with food. They'll give up. They'll wait for the inevitable heart attack. Subscribe so this reaches them. Hit that button. And comment below. Tell me your biggest takeaway from this video. Because every comment signals to YouTube that this content is valuable, that it should be recommended. Your comment could save someone's life. Comment now. Then let's continue with the exact preparation. Here's how you prepare this meal. Start with the salmon. 6 ounces, wild caught if possible. Pat it dry. Season with salt, pepper, minced garlic, lemon zest. Let it sit for 10 minutes. Heat a grill or oven to 400 degrees Fahrenheit. Grill or bake for 12 to 15 minutes until the internal temperature reaches 145 degrees. Don't overcook. Salmon should be moist, flaky. While the salmon cooks, prepare the vegetables. Wash and chop broccoli and cauliflower into florets. Peel and cube 3 large beets. Toss with extra virgin olive oil, salt, pepper, minced garlic. Spread on a baking sheet. Roast at 400 degrees for 25 to 30 minutes until tender and slightly caramelized. For the lentils, use brown or green lentils. Rinse 1 cup of dry lentils. Add to a pot with 3 cups of water. Bring to a boil. Reduce heat and simmer for 20 to 25 minutes until tender but not mushy. Drain. Let cool slightly. In a bowl, combine the cooked lentils with halved cherry tomatoes, diced red onion, chopped fresh parsley. Dress with extra virgin olive oil, fresh lemon juice, salt, pepper. Toss. While everything is cooking, make the tomato sauce. Heat 2 tablespoons of extra virgin olive oil in a pan. Add diced onion and minced garlic. Sauté until soft. Add fresh tomatoes, chopped, or 1 can of whole peeled tomatoes, crushed by hand. Add a pinch of salt, pepper, dried oregano. Simmer for 15 to 20 minutes until the sauce thickens. Taste and adjust seasoning. Plate the meal. Salmon on one side. Roasted vegetables on another. Lentil salad on the side. Spoon some tomato sauce over the salmon or serve it on the side for dipping. For dessert, measure out 30 grams of mixed nuts, about 15 grams of walnuts, and 15 grams of almonds. Eat them plain or lightly toasted. This is the meal. Simple. Whole foods. No processed ingredients. Every component chosen for a specific mechanism. Now let's talk about frequency. The studies that showed plaque regression required sustained dietary change. Not once a week, not occasionally. Daily adherence over months and years. The Predimed study ran for 7 years. The Cordioprev study ran for 7 years. The direct carotid study ran for 2 years. You need consistency. Eat this meal, or variations of it using the same components, every single day. If you can't eat salmon daily, alternate with mackerel, sardines, or herring. But get 2,000 to 3,000 milligrams of EPA and DHA every day. If you can't eat beets daily, drink beetroot juice. 250 milliliters provides the same nitrate dose. Or eat other nitrate-rich vegetables, arugula, spinach, leafy greens. But get your nitrates daily. Cruciferous vegetables. Eat multiple times per week. Broccoli, cauliflower, Brussels sprouts, kale. Rotate them. Tomatoes and olive oil, daily. This combination is the foundation of Mediterranean diets. Use olive oil generously, 3 to 4 tablespoons per day. Don't be afraid of the calories. The fats are protective. Garlic and onions. Cook with them daily. Add them to everything. They're cheap, easy, powerfully protective. Lentils and beans. Eat them multiple times per week. They provide fiber and protein. They lower cholesterol. They stabilize blood sugar. Nuts. 30 grams daily. A small handful, not more. Nuts are calorie-dense. Too many will cause weight gain, and weight gain counteracts the benefits. Now let's talk about monitoring. How do you know if this is working? You need objective measures, not just how you feel. The gold standard is imaging. Carotid ultrasound. This measures intima media thickness, the thickness of the artery wall. Get a baseline, then repeat in 18 to 24 months. You want the thickness to decrease or stay stable. If it increases, you're not doing enough. Coronary calcium score. This is a CT scan that measures calcium in your coronary arteries. It gives you a number. 0 means no plaque. 100 to 400 is moderate. Above 400 is severe. Get a baseline. Repeat in 2 years. You want the score to stay stable or increase very slowly. Rapid increase means aggressive disease. Advanced lipid panel. Not just total cholesterol and LDL. Get a detailed panel. LDL particle number. LDL particle size. HDL particle number. Apolipoprotein B. These markers tell you what's happening at the particle level. You want LDL particle number below 1,000. You want large, buoyant LDL particles. You want high HDL particle number. You want ApoB below 80. Blood pressure. Measure it at home. Twice daily, morning and evening. Average the readings over a week. You want it below 130 over 80. Ideally below 120 over 80. If it's elevated, this meal will help, but you might also need medication. Don't let elevated blood pressure persist. It damages arteries. It accelerates plaque growth. Weight. Track it weekly. You want to lose weight if you're overweight. Even 10 to 15 pounds makes a difference. The direct carotid study showed that losing more than 12 pounds was associated with plaque regression. If you're at a healthy weight, maintain it. High-sensitivity C-reactive protein. This measures systemic inflammation. You want it below 1.0 milligrams per liter, ideally below 0.5. If it's elevated, you have inflammation that needs to be addressed. This meal will help, but you might need to look for other sources. Infections, autoimmune disease, chronic stress. These tests give you data, objective proof that the meal is working. Or if it's not working, they tell you what needs to be adjusted. Now let me address the obvious question. Why doesn't your doctor know about this? Why isn't this standard of care? Because medical education is broken. Doctors learn pharmacology, how to prescribe statins, how to perform angioplasty, how to bypass arteries. They don't learn nutrition. The average medical school provides less than 20 hours of nutrition education in 4 years, and most of that is biochemistry. The Krebs cycle. Not practical application. Not how food affects gene expression. Not how polyphenols activate ABCA1. After medical school, during residency and fellowship, there's zero nutrition training. Doctors learn to treat disease, not prevent it. They learn that atherosclerosis is progressive. You manage it with medication. You intervene with procedures, but you don't reverse it. Except you can reverse it. The studies prove it. Dean Ornish published studies in the 1990s showing intensive lifestyle intervention reversed coronary disease. Caldwell-Esselstyn showed the same thing. But their work is dismissed as extreme, too restrictive, unsustainable. And maybe it is for some people. But the Mediterranean diet isn't extreme. It's delicious, it's sustainable, and it works. The Predimed study proved it. The CardioPreb study proved it. These are large, long-term, randomized trials, published in top journals. But they're ignored in clinical practice. Why? Because there's no profit in food. You can't patent salmon. You can't charge $5,000 a month for beets. Pharmaceutical companies fund medical research. They fund continuing education. They sponsor conferences. They're not interested in studies that show food works. They're interested in selling drugs. This is why your cardiologist prescribes a statin and tells you to eat low fat. That's what he learned. That's what the guidelines say. He doesn't know about ABCA1. He's never read the Predimed study. He's never heard of Oleocanthal. Not because he's incompetent, but because he was never taught. And now, I'm going to tell you something that will make you angry. Your cardiologist might not want you to know this. Because if you reverse your plaque with food, you don't need his procedures. You don't need angioplasty. You don't need stents. You don't need bypass surgery. His income depends on performing procedures. If patients reverse their disease with diet, he loses revenue. I'm not saying all cardiologists think this way. Most are well-intentioned. They genuinely want to help. But the system incentivizes procedures. Cardiologists get paid more for doing angioplasty than for spending an hour explaining nutrition. So they do angioplasty. And patients keep getting sicker. This is why you can't rely on your doctor to save you. You have to save yourself. You have to educate yourself. You have to understand the mechanisms. You have to take control. That's why I created an ebook. It's called the Arterial Remodeling Protocol, and it contains everything I know about reversing atherosclerosis. The complete science of plaque formation, every step of the cascade, how foam cells form, how plaques grow, how caps thin, how ruptures happen. More detail than I can provide in this video. The complete meal plan, not just this one meal, breakfast, lunch, dinner, snacks, a full week of eating, every meal designed to hit multiple mechanisms, recipes, shopping lists, preparation tips, the supplement protocol. Which supplements actually help? Fish oil dosing. Vitamin K2 for preventing calcification. Magnesium for relaxing vessels. Which supplements are worthless and why? The exercise protocol. How to improve endothelial function through specific types of movement. Not just exercise more. Specific interventions with specific targets. The monitoring protocol. Which tests to get. How often. How to interpret results. What to do if numbers aren't improving. Real case studies. Patients like Thomas who regressed their plaque. What they ate. What their numbers were. How long it took. To get this ebook, click the link in the description. Join Senior Health Life Daily. This is not free. This is a premium resource that represents 20 years of surgical experience and hundreds of hours of research. But it's worth every penny if it keeps you out of my operating room. Click the link, get the ebook, get the complete protocol. Now before you go, watch one more video. Click the link appearing on your screen. It's called The One Supplement That Reverses Arterial Calcification. 127 studies prove it. Because even with perfect nutrition, there's one supplement that accelerates plaque regression faster than anything else. One compound that pulls calcium out of your arteries and puts it back in your bones where it belongs. One nutrient that most people are deficient in. You need to know what it is. Click now, watch that video, and subscribe if you haven't already. Hit that button, because I'm committed to sharing truth, mechanisms, protocols that work, not guidelines written by committees funded by pharmaceutical companies, not advice designed to keep you on medication and procedures for life. The truth. Subscribe so you don't miss it. Take care of your arteries. Eat this meal every day. Monitor your progress. And remember what I said at the beginning. This meal reverses plaque through 7 mechanisms simultaneously. Omega-3 stabilization, nitric oxide production, LDL oxidation prevention, adhesion molecule reduction, reverse cholesterol transport activation, anti-inflammatory effects, cholesterol binding and excretion, No single food can do this. No pill can do this. But this meal, this specific combination of salmon, beets, cruciferous vegetables, tomatoes, olive oil, garlic, onions, lentils, and nuts, attacks every step of the atherosclerosis cascade. And when you eat it every day for 2 years, imaging studies show 5% plaque regression. That's the difference between needing surgery and staying healthy, between a heart attack and a long life. Eat the meal. Save your arteries. I'll see you in the next video.